Veganism is Becoming an Extremist Lifestyle by Katie Glass for The Spectator. This is one I knew I should have ignored, but I didn't. So here we are. And I'm kind of glad I didn't, because some of the arguments she makes were made by another person last year, a vegan, actually. So interesting. I'll talk about that more later. For now, let's look at Katie's piece. This week, Billie Eilish served up a reminder of the irritations of veganism. She's, of course, talking about Billie Eilish's recent performances in London, the O2 Arena. She made completely vegan. All of the food served was vegan. Katie chooses the Daily Mail as a source. Super reliable. And of course, the Daily Mail says that everyone hated it. They hated the food. Did they run out of meat or something? On the other end of the spectrum, we've got Vegan Food and Living, and they say the response was mostly positive. Social media lit up with praise for Eilish's plant-based takeover. What a beautiful artist, really uses her platform to promote the issues in the world, vegan and healthy ways of changing our ways to help our planet. So obviously this is just people's responses on social media to the idea of making it vegan. These aren't people who attended, or it's not their reviews after they attended. Who knows where the truth lies, but I would guess somewhere in the middle. I doubt very many people cared about the food. They're there to see Billie Eilish. Like, who cares? It's junk fast food. Who cares? But I expect their real irritation had little to do with the food itself and everything to do with having vegan-only options shoved down their throats. You know what really sucks? Going to a venue and having non-vegan options shoved down your throats. By that, I mean, there's nothing you can eat. There's nothing vegan. Going to a concert venue and having nothing to eat except fries. And oh wait, those are actually fried in beef tallow, so never mind. I am morally opposed to meat and other animal products for logical, evidence-based reasons. It's bad for animals, bad for the environment, bad for people too. What exactly is the moral opposition to vegan food? It's weird and vegans are annoying. Really? I think there's a huge difference between non-vegans not liking the vegan options and vegans having zero options. And even then, who cares? Like, really, I'm at a concert. I paid for the ticket to see Billie Eilish, not to eat overpriced fast food, vegan or otherwise. So why is veganism so annoying, Katie asks. Maybe because it's fashionable? Is it? I almost think it's more fashionable to hate vegans, but maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, she stereotypes vegans as people in pleather trousers with asymmetric pink hair drinking plant-based cocktails. People appear to identify as vegan as if it were a sexuality. Pulsexual? Anyone? So I'm guessing she came up with pulsexual and then like wrote a sentence around it, which I get, like, it kind of sounds pulsexual. That's kind of funny, but also like, what does that even mean? You're sexually aroused by legumes? I was going to say that describes literally no one, but you never know. Maybe, Katie says, veganism is annoying because the benefits are debatable. She says everyone knows vegans just live on chips. That's literally what she says. I'm going to count this as a win, considering a fair number of studies find vegans are pretty healthy. So I don't know, if you can just eat chips all day and be at a healthy weight and have low blood pressure, sounds pretty good to me. A study this year by New Zealand's Massey University found half of vegans were deprived of 2 specific amino acids, leaving them at risk of muscle wastage. So this is the lysine-leucine study that came out a few months ago. Her presentation of it is kind of over the top, I would say, but I have a whole pretty in-depth video about this. Basically, it is very easy to get plenty of leucine, lysine, any amino acid as long as you eat your beans. Like, don't actually live on chips, you know? Oh, I'm just realizing this is UK. So she doesn't mean potato chips, she means fries, right? Not that it makes any difference, but that just dawned on me. Another report by UK experts last week found that no plant-based milk is nutritionally equivalent to cow's milk, and that there is potential toxicological concern for under 5s who follow a vegan diet and consume soy milk. So the report she's talking about really isn't so scary if you actually read it. I'm going to go out on a limb and say she did not. Even just from the summary, you can see they ultimately conclude that plant milks, as long as they're fortified and unsweetened, are acceptable alternatives for little kids. The potential toxicological concern is isoflavones, which is very interesting By interesting, I mean stupid, not evidence-based. I have read the whole thing. It's worth talking about, I think. So if you guys are interested in me doing a detailed video on it, just let me know in the comments. In any event, what plant milks for kids has to do with veganism becoming more extreme or becoming an extreme lifestyle? Well, I don't know. The promise that going vegan is automatically healthier is absurd when even Haagen-Dazs has a vegan range. So I know anti-vegans really want this to be true, that vegans are just telling everyone go vegan and you'll be healthy. I have literally never seen this. I've been vegan now for over a decade and a half. I've never ever seen this. I have only seen vegans explicitly stating, hey, Oreos are vegan. Vegan is not inherently healthy. So yeah, I don't know where they're getting this from. If you Google vegan nutrition, literally every source is telling you how to eat a vegan diet properly, aka a vegan diet is not inherently healthy. Also, kind of side note, but what happened to the Haagen-Dazs vegan line? That was years ago now that we tried it. I have not seen it in years. I looked it up and they do apparently have an oat milk line. Maybe that's available in Europe and not in the US. But yeah, if any of you guys have seen it, let me know. In the growing UK vegan food market, estimated to be worth over £1 billion, companies competing to pump out vegan products are often more interested in marketing than nutritional value, with much of it highly processed and full of salt, sweetener, saturated fat, or refined sugar. If I am trying to mimic a cow's milk ice cream, I'm not going to lower the fat or the sugar to try to make it healthier. I'm going to try to mimic a cow's milk ice cream. And because ice cream is unhealthy, the vegan version is going to be unhealthy. Most of the animal products vegan companies are trying to mimic are unhealthy. So if you want your product to actually mimic it, it's going to be unhealthy as well, right? The whole point is that people choose the vegan version over the non-vegan version. If you make it healthier, it's probably going to taste worse and people aren't going to like it. Luckily, the vegan versions are usually healthier, at least when it comes to mock meats, because they're not using beef, right? They're using wheat gluten or soy protein or pea protein. They don't have cholesterol. They have much less saturated fat, not to mention little to no toxins like dioxins. Even still, companies like Beyond Meat have listened to the feedback and have changed or added some products that are even healthier, switching out the coconut oil with avocado oil to lower the saturated fat. And once again, what does this have to do with veganism being extreme? If anything, I think the opposite would be more extreme, right? Like what we used to have with vegan products. You're taking a cow's milk ice cream and making like a smoothie, right? You remember those weird smoothie pints that I found that were just literally like blended up smoothie, but it's ice cream, right? Like that seems more extreme to me, you know? The only way this works with her headline is if she truly believes that all vegans promote veganism as inherently healthy. Either she's lying, either she knows that's not true, or she doesn't know that's not true, which means she's done like no research on the topic. Either one is bad. A study in China found vegetarians aged less healthily than omnivores, not because their diet lacked animal products, but because the food they did eat was generally lower quality. I love a study, right? There's no link, there's no citation, just the level of professionalism I expect from The Spectator. That's not fair. The Spectator, it's got some okay stuff every once in a while. I mean, look, they publish pro-vegan stuff. I'll talk about that more later, too. Anyway, I did find the study, Vegetarian Diet and Healthy Aging Among Chinese Older Adults, a prospective study. So while vegetarians had lower odds of achieving healthy aging compared to omnivores, this difference disappeared once they controlled for quality. Importantly, the high healthy plant-based diet index and low unhealthy plant-based diet index, vegetarian groups did not exhibit a significantly higher risk of unhealthy aging behaviors compared to their counterparts, indicating that a healthier diet overall, regardless of being vegetarian or omnivore, may play a more significant role in promoting healthy aging. In other words, vegan or vegetarian is not inherently healthy or unhealthy, as virtually any vegan will tell you. I have to say, though, I find the writing in the study kind of sus. Like the author's own data suggests it is diet quality. As they say, it's diet quality, not whether it contains animal products or not. Yet they also emphasize the need for, quote, a balanced and flexible dietary strategy that incorporates an appropriate amount of animal products to optimize the health status of healthy older adults. So healthy aging isn't about meat but also we need to make sure adults are eating meat for healthy aging. What? So yeah, those are Katie's two. Is it literally two? Three two studies in one report. The leucine lysine study, this China study, not the China study, obviously, and then the report about kids and plant milks. Those are her examples of how a vegan diet is not good for you, actually, or the health benefits are debatable. I think you guys know what I'm going to say. Cherry picking. She completely ignores all of these studies that find a vegan diet can be perfectly healthy if done correctly, and that vegans generally are in pretty good health, right? When it comes to BMI, when it comes to diabetes, blood pressure, heart disease, like all of these major killers, vegans are doing pretty well. There is no doubt whatsoever that your average vegan diet is so much healthier than your average omnivorous diet. Katie goes on saying that these dubious health claims for veganism are why sales are dropping. Sales of chilled and frozen meat alternatives dropping 21% in the year to June 2024 compared with 2 years earlier. Didn't she just say the vegan market is growing? Like literally the paragraph before this? Does no one edit these? Moving on from health, Katie finds the environmental claims for veganism dubious as well. My angry lintel of a former lodger and I just trying so hard on that one. No, it doesn't work. Basically, her local meat-based diet is much better for the environment than her vegan roommate's drought-causing one. It takes 130 pints of water to produce a single glass of almond milk, not to mention the billions of bees essential to pollinating almonds who die in the process. I think I've shared this 100 times already, and I'll probably share it 100 more. Eating local is not the answer. The data is very clear on this. Eating local only makes a significant difference when transportation makes a significant difference, right? When it makes up a huge portion of a product's carbon footprint. For the vast majority of products, it does not. Overall, animal-based foods tend to have a higher footprint than plant-based. This data shows this is the case when we look at individual food products. However, studies also show that this holds true for actual diets. For example, researchers Vilma Sandstrom and colleagues studied the footprints of diets across the EU. Food transport accounted for only 6% of emissions, whilst dairy, meat, and eggs accounted for 83%. So her angry lintel lodger was right, even if he did drink almond milk. Because what is almond milk replacing? Cow's milk. And you know what uses way more water than almond milk? Yeah, cow's milk. Cow's milk has significantly higher impacts than the plant-based alternatives across all metrics. It causes around 3 times as much GHG emissions, uses around 10 times as much land, 2 to 20 times as much fresh water, and creates much higher levels of eutrophication. Lastly, the bees. And it's true, a lot of bees are exploited to pollinate crops. There's a good paper on this here on migratory bee colonies. But lots of other plant foods do too, and it's impossible to know like which ones, how much, which ones involve transporting bees, all of that information. There's no label for any of that. Now, I understand someone eschewing almond milk in favor of soy milk to hopefully save some bees. But let's be real, Katie does not care about bees. If she did, she would argue for another plant milk like soy and not animal products. Animals who are required to eat, and they largely eat plants. She doesn't really care about the environment or farmed animals because that would mean giving up her meat-based diet, as she says, which is a lot harder than just cherry-picking studies and poking fun at vegan stereotypes. I hope one day we can have a serious conversation about bees and how we treat them. But honestly, is that ever going to happen when we still treat cows and pigs and chickens so horribly, when we still have people calling vegans extreme for refusing to participate? And I'm just going to say it. Does anyone really believe she has or had a vegan roommate? Like, why? I don't understand. Every one of these anti-vegans, they always talk about their vegan friends. I live in Portland, Oregon. I don't know that many vegans. I have to go out of my way to find the vegans. How are you guys finding all of these vegans to be friends with? Maybe I'm just in a spicy mood, but I just don't believe these people whenever they talk about their vegan acquaintances, especially when clearly the purpose is just to support their vegans are annoying narrative. Moving on, we've got more terrible plant foods. Quinoa obsession in the West. Haven't heard that one in a while. It's ruined Peru, right? Avocados cause water shortages. Lab-grown meat? What? Lab-grown meat, number one, is not even vegan, at least yet, but also it's not even available yet. So what is she talking about? But yeah, the quinoa Peru thing, I made a video about that 8 years ago. And actually, if you Google, I think I Googled like quinoa bad for Peru or something, and you go to videos, like my video comes up. Woohoo! It's really a happy story. The poorest people got the gains, rich people had to spend a bit more, and they did. Avocados aren't the best if we're comparing them to other plant foods in terms of environmental impact, but when we compare them to animal products, yeah, significantly better. So again, if you're like trying to improve the impact of your vegan diet, then yeah, I can understand someone reducing their avocado consumption. But refusing to go vegan because avocados aren't as good as like soy, what are you doing? And I shouldn't have to point out that vegans aren't the only ones who consume avocados and quinoa. There's like 2 vegans in the world, guys. It's mostly non-vegans eating these foods. Like many people, I support the moral case for veganism. Who condones animal suffering? But surely it's better to advocate for better farming practices than to call for an end to the meat industry. After all, what will we do with the animals? Are we just going to let the cows run free or have one last massive barbecue to celebrate? Will farmers have their livestock forcibly taken away? It's another one I haven't heard in a while. Has this ever happened before? Look at any other exploitative industry that has died or is dying. Look at the fur industry. Was it just all of a sudden abolished and all of the minks and chinchillas set free? No, it's still dying. People have been calling out fur for decades now, and it's still not dead. There are still animals being farmed for fur. Activists told people how horrible fur is, alternatives became available and much cheaper, and people stopped buying fur. And so now the industry is much smaller. Far fewer animals are being tortured for their fur. Burgers, steaks, all these foods, they're not going away anytime soon. This is a very slow process. It starts with people like vegans saying no and not purchasing these products. You get enough of these people, companies will stop selling the products because they're not making money. They will stop buying animals. They will stop breeding animals. The industry will get smaller and smaller and smaller. There will be fewer and fewer animals exploited. Look, I'm not going to pretend like if I had the power, I wouldn't abolish factory farming, all animal farming, not just factory farming, immediately. I absolutely would. But vegans don't have that power. So what are we talking about? I think what we're talking about is Katie looking for any excuse not to change her behavior. She says she agrees with us, which means what? She believes it is wrong to kill, to confine, to exploit animals for their meat, for their byproducts. She believes causing harm to animals for foods when other foods are available is wrong. But she won't act on that belief because, hey, what if the animal agriculture industry came to an abrupt end? Wouldn't that be crazy? Like, it's something that's never going to happen. She knowingly supports cruelty because it'd be weird if cows were everywhere. Final thoughts. If I were kept in captivity, treated like a product, a slave, basically, living in filth, having my babies taken away, I think the first and only thing I would want is to be free. I would want to be out of that situation, no matter what the situation I was going into was like, as long as I was free. So yeah, I think letting the animals go free is the preferable option. If we only have those two, either keep hurting sentient beings or let them all go free, let them go free, whatever the consequences. We put them into this situation. We started this. We have to deal with the consequences. Maybe that's actually extreme, the only extreme thing that's actually been discussed this whole time, but that's what I believe. Finally, we get to what Katie really wants to say, which is that vegans are ruining veganism. We're annoying, of course, we're too extreme, and she has experienced this personally, of course, among her own vegan friends. Sure. Now, between the outrageous PETA campaigns and Gary Yourofsky's preaching, veganism is becoming an extremist lifestyle. With judgmental meat shaming, vegans have alienated others from joining their cause. It is a sad case of the left eating its plant-based self. Oh my God, where do I begin? What does this have to do with the left? Number one, PETA and Gary Yourofsky, what? They've been around forever. What are you talking about? Sure, vegans can be annoying. Yes, they can be demanding. Assuming her part about vegans going after Billie Eilish for eating honey, for riding horses, like, I don't love that sort of thing. I don't love scrutinizing someone who is going out of her way to try to do good, not only for herself, but to encourage others to do good as well. That feels really bad to me. But then again, do I trust Katie's interpretation, her presentation of the situation? No, I do not. The judgmental part, vegans are too judgmental, and that's why people don't go vegan. This is a very childish, very convenient reading of the situation. Instead of focusing on her own actions, she blames it on other people. She blames it on vegans. Like, if only we were nicer, if only we were less judgmental, Katie would go vegan. That's not to say approach doesn't matter. It definitely does. People are very emotional. We're very social. So when we see a group of people acting a certain way, it can make us not want to be part of that group, right? Which means doing a thing that we know is right, not eating animals, we don't want to do it because we don't want to be labeled a vegetarian, a vegan, because they're annoying and no one likes them. But you know what's more important than that, and a obviously bigger reason why people are not vegan or vegetarian? Bacon. People like meat. They like eggs. They like milk. They like eating them. It's normal to eat them. Society says it's fine to eat them. It's weird not to eat them. Like, it makes you part of the fringe. People don't want that. They just want to be normal. People like Katie aren't mad at vegans for being annoying. They're mad because we're right, and that means they're wrong. And not just wrong, horribly wrong. Like, look at this. And this is not even close to the worst footage, the worst images I could show you. These are creatures who think and feel, they have families, and they are stuck in these horrible situations because people like Katie won't eat other foods. That's a really hard thing for people to admit to themselves, to admit that they care more about their taste buds and how they fit in with society than they do about animal suffering. It's a lot easier to just blame the vegans. That said, I think we can blame vegans for one thing, or at least a vegan. Becoming a vegan doesn't mean you're green, and I know I am one, by Paul Clements. So I responded to this, I think last year, because it was just so bad, and bad in a very similar way to Katie's piece. To grow the almonds required for a single glass of milk takes 130 pints of water, which is exactly what Katie says, 130 pints of water per glass of almond milk. It's a very particular way of phrasing things instead of the obvious way, which is referring to gallons, and of course comparing those gallons to the gallons of water required for cow's milk. He also talks about the impact of avocados and bee pollination. Like, I would not be surprised if Katie got a lot of her talking points from his article. In happy news, a different writer, vegan writer, wrote a response to Katie, also for The Spectator. There's Nothing Extreme About Veganism by Chaz Newkey Burden. I was not a fan of his previous article. I think I responded to that. Blame vegans for the anti-vegan backlash, something like that. But this one, I know it's uncomfortable to dwell on what actually happens. The meat industry prefers us to talk about choices and personal preference. But when somebody buys some bacon, their money flows through the checkout to the people who can fine, torment, and cut up the pigs. It's not a metaphor. It's not an ethics class. It's a real transaction with real consequences. Perfect. It's a perfect article. The whole thing. Definitely read it if you can. Spectator is behind a paywall, but there are ways. I used to use 12-foot ladder, 10-foot ladder. What's it called? But it just stopped working. I kept getting errors. I don't know. They figured it out. All the subscription publications figured it out. It didn't work anymore, but there are still ways. So veganism is becoming extreme because Billie Eilish showed some anti-fucking factory farming footage to people, and some vegans eat poorly, and we have pink hair. And it's The Spectator, so they have to put in the anti-woke stuff, right? They have to bring in the left somehow, even if it makes no sense, has nothing to do with the piece. This is just such a dumb article. It's poorly written, regardless of the content. Just the writing itself is bad and obnoxious. And then the content is lame. It has nothing to do with veganism becoming more extreme. Veganism has always been considered extreme and has everything to do with Katie. Despite her insistence that she really cares, she cares just as much as vegans, she clearly doesn't care enough to change her behavior. And that upsets her, right? She probably has empathy, so of course that upsets her. But instead of turning that disdain inwards, she blames the vegans. If you truly think it's wrong to hurt animals, then you shouldn't do it. And you shouldn't pay others to do it on your behalf either. That's not extremism, it's consistency. It's mercy in action. So if that feels annoying, perhaps it's worth sitting with that for a while. Thank you for watching, everybody. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please do leave your comments and your thoughts. It's redundant, I think. And of course, like and subscribe. And of course, thank you so much to those who support the channel, my members here on YouTube, and my patrons at patreon.com/unnaturalvegan. I do post 2 exclusive videos a month for tier 2 members and patrons. I post a vlog, which I'm about to record right now, and then I do a controversial topic for the end of the month for the second video. That's it for me. New video soon.